Okay, we are here today with novelist and Sunday Express theatre critic Michael Arditti, who's going to suggest us what to see in London over this summer.
I'm going to start at the National Theatre with The Deep Blue Sea. The National Theatre has been on rather a losing streak recently, so I'm delighted to be able to recommend this production so highly. It's Terence Rattigan's masterpiece, and it's the story of a woman who leaves her respectable husband, who's a judge, to go and live in seedy lodgings in West London with a former RAF pilot. It's set in a few years after the war, and it all takes place over one day, and it really fulfills all the classical unities of drama, but with a very, very human, sentimental, some people think, touch. And it's absolutely beautifully acted by Helen McCrory. She's, in my view, the finest actress of her generation. She captures every aspect of this character, and she's very well supported by others in the cast, but I just think that to see her at her height is a great experience for everybody, and I would highly recommend it.
Then you suggested the Hobson's Choice of the vaudeville.
Yes, Hobson's Choice is from a couple of generations before Rattigan. It's one of those plays that's actually not a great play, but is always a wonderful play to see. It's set in a Lancashire shoe shop at the turn of the 20th century, and is really about a young woman rebelling against her father's sort of domination, and she chooses to marry one of his shop hands, a man who actually literally makes shoes, and in a very class-rigid society of the time, that was not something that was done. But it's so delightful and so funny and so warm and beautifully played in this production, and it's really one of those sort of plays that people constantly complain about that aren't written anymore. It's set in a very realistic society. The characters are all true and beautifully done, and Martin Shaw leads a splendid cast.
Then you've chosen The Spoils of the Trafalgar Studio.
Well, nothing could be more different from Hobson's Choice. This is a play by the young Hollywood actor Jesse Eisenberg, and we've seen some Hollywood actors bringing their own plays here recently. The latest one was Matthew Perry. I can't even remember what his play was called, and I think that's probably deliberate, which was here in the spring. But Jesse Eisenberg is the real deal. He can act, we know that, we've all seen him on screen in things, the film about the making of Facebook, for example. But in this, he actually plays the lead, and it's one of those needy, nerdy characters he does so well. But it's a terrifically witty study of 20-somethings in Manhattan. It's not something to take your maiden aunt to. I've been to plays for the last 30 years, and am quite inured to obscenity and everything else of that sort. But when he recalls his childhood fantasies, which I won't go into now, even I was shocked. But it's beautifully done and wonderfully acted by the entire cast, so I'd highly recommend it, perhaps to your younger viewers.
And still talking about the young generation, you chose Romeo and Juliet at the Garrick.
Well, yes, this is the fourth of Kenneth Branagh's productions. He's taken a year off his many varied career on screen and stage to mount these productions in the West End, and that in itself is very welcome. The first, of course, was the wonderful production of The Winter's Tale with Judi Dench. This isn't in that calibre. The production is quite conventional, but it's remarkable for the performance of Lily James as Juliet. She's well known for having starred in Branagh's film of Cinderella, and perhaps inevitably for her role in Downton Abbey. But here she really proves herself a consummate stage actress. None of the other performances are quite on that par, and it's particularly interesting, though, to see a very much older performance of Mercutio than usual from Sir Derek Jacobi. I don't think it works. Some people do, some don't. But he's a most wonderful Shakespearean, so it's always great to see him. And one just welcomes Branagh's initiative in putting these serious plays on in the West End.
But isn't the Mercutio a bit too old?
Well, he is, yes. They try to make a thing of this. I mean, he's 50 years older than Richard Madden, who plays Romeo. So they're not bosom buddies in the same way. He's more of a flaneur. He's first seen sitting in a restaurant drinking some wine. It's a very Italian production. And in fact, one of the things that annoyed me was that they keep breaking into colloquial Italian, so you wonder why they bother the rest of the time with Shakespearean iambic pentameters.
Ooh. And last but not least, The Go-Between at the Apollo.
I'm putting this in because it's the only new musical I can heartily recommend. It's based on L.P. Hartley's novel, which is perhaps best known now for the Alan Bates Julie Christie film. It's not natural musical material, and you'll be pleased to know that in fact it's played against one single piano. There's no orchestra blaring out sort of Hollywood or Broadway style orchestrations, and it's very gentle. It presents an image of Edwardian England. The star is Michael Crawford, who's so popular here, particularly because of his role in The Phantom of the Opera. And I think they skew the novel rather to make him the centre of the action. He is the narrator, and really, I think it sort of rather destroys the focus, which should be on the younger characters. But nevertheless, it's a very brave attempt to do something rather different in the West End. And it's a great joy to see Crawford back on the stage.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael, for being with us, and we look forward to seeing these plays over the summer.